This week on the show, may the 4th be with you. That's right, we're doing a Star Wars week, and we're checking in on everything ostensibly happening a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Plus, we talk about the box office hit Sinners and break down everything happening in the new Universal theme parks. Bruno, you may do the thing when ready.
We're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
This better not awaken anything in me.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I'm responsible for my own happiness. I can't even be responsible for my own breakfast.
We have Santa Claus. Assemble.
Welcome to Nerd Here Weekly, our weekly news check-in from Nerd Here First. I'm Riley Trahan. As always, I'm joined by Deepak Chitnis, Bruno Menestas, and we're all doing silent check-ins for the podcast this week. That's good. And coming to us live from Professor Vincent Veritas's laboratory / Sensorium Emporium, it's Jackson Trahan. Well, yeah, good. Loving this bit so much.
It's an audio format.
Loving this bit so much.
No,
We have to
hello. Hi,
incentivize
I'm
them
Jack.
to watch the video.
If you want some sound, I'll just point out the casual reminder that the Cantina music in Star Wars is usually called jizz music, like within the
It's
canon.
true. It should be called jizz music if Disney were cowards.
It's a good point. It's a good point that Deepak is pointing out that yes, we are on YouTube currently getting a copyright flag put on us for Deepak's rendition of the Cantina theme.
Flawless rendition.
So if you want to see us all silently remark to our introductions, you can head over to youtube.com/nerditherefirst, where you can subscribe to these videos and get them all delivered to you when they come out. You can also see our beautiful faces reading the news, which is fun. I've heard people like that, seeing us. Visual mediums, people enjoy the video. We're pivoting, guys. Actually, we fully pivoted at this point, I think. Well, I really want to explain what Professor Vincent Verius's laboratory / Sensorium Emporium is.
Yeah, I didn't know what that is.
Mr.
What any of that
Megorian's
stuff
Wonder
you said
Emporium?
was.
Well, but that's not till
What?
way later in the show notes. So I'm afraid that without further ado, it's time to get to the news. Starting with the headline roundup. So that was good. I'm going to run with that. This week in the headlines, we start off with the return of Dev Patel to direct
Another movie where he's
action
really mad at
revenge
people.
thriller. Yeah. So Dev Patel is set to direct and star in The Peasant, a medieval revenge thriller inspired by John Wick, Braveheart, and Arthurian legend. It was penned by Miss Marvel writer Will Dunn and was featured on The Blacklist in 2023. The script has been reimagined from its initial Italian setting to a vibrant, mystical 14th century India. Patel will portray a shepherd who embarks on a vengeance-fueled quest against a mercenary knights who have devastated his community, revealing hidden depth to his character. The film is backed by Thunder Road and Fifth Seasons, the producers behind John Wick, and is anticipated to blend stylized action with the rich period aesthetic that we sort of have seen from these kinds of levels of budgetary attempt in the past. Deepak, how do you see The Peasant needing to distinguish itself from things like John Wick or Braveheart to kind of carve its own place in this landscape?
Well, in addition to the obvious aesthetic difference of being in a, old time India with, now he says, mystical setting and all that, that's the big difference. But I think stylistically with the type of action, obviously John Wick is very gun fu heavy. Not going to be any of that here. I think it's probably going to lean more towards Braveheart. Monkey Man showed that he has an aptitude for gore and showing the blood and violence. So lean into that. That'll be fun. That'll be cool. I don't know how true to history they're going to be, as far as I don't recall there being mercenary knights in India in my study of that time period. I think it was actually a lot of Mughal and Muslim rule coming in from the Middle East towards India at that time. And there are a lot of religious and political tensions right now, as there typically are, but even more so. So will he lean into that? And Monkey Man kind of ran afoul of some of the Indian government. So I wonder how much he's going to potentially lean into or temper that given the time period. But Yeah, as far as the action goes, I could see him doing a lot of pretty creative things here. I'd love to see him kind of do the Green Knight thing in India. That would be fun.
I'm really fascinated to see, right, we had him do Green Knight, which was sort of this Arthurian period epic thing, right? And then we had Monkey Man, which was sort of his John Wick attempt, and in which he also was director, producer, certainly
director, producer, co-writer, I believe.
So then for him to sort of take on all of that stuff in one project, I am really excited to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up in the roundup, we got new Oscar viewing requirements, which of course means new potential loopholes to Oscar viewing requirements. So the those of you who missed it may have not seen that the Academy of Motion Picture of Arts and Sciences has implemented new rules for the 2025 Oscars, requiring that films have a theatrical release to be eligible for consideration. This move aims to emphasize the importance of the cinematic experience and support traditional movie theaters. However, discussions have arisen regarding potential loopholes in these requirements. Some industry insiders suggest that certain films might meet the minimal theatrical required release criteria without genuinely engaging in a broad theatrical run. For instance, a film could technically qualify as being showed in a limited number of theaters for a short period, primarily to meet eligibility standards rather than to reach an audience. This is what business jargon terms a qualifying run. The situation raises questions about the effectiveness of these new rules in promoting theatrical release and whether they might inadvertently favor larger studios with more resources to navigate these requirements. Jackson, how do you think the Academy can ensure that the rules promote genuine theatrical release rather than disadvantaging independent or smaller films? We talk a lot about in the game space. I feel like this has become more even. But in the movie space, I feel like there's still a lot of inequity between like indie and bigger name distributors.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest the problem is that most movies, well, aside from streaming, but if you're requiring that movies still need a theatrical run, then there is a sort of like a profit incentive in the third party to only show movies that will make money. And that's generally not going to be like smaller movies or more independent films that don't have, a lot of people just go to movies for spectacle and not for genuine narrative storytelling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think requiring theatrical runs is not the answer, especially as more and more movies go to streaming. And we've talked more about how it feels like the Oscars are sort of biased against streaming, and they don't like to give these awards out to a lot of that content very readily. So I don't know. It feels more like they're just trying to protect the status quo than try to make it more open to new or smaller filmmakers, to me.
Bruno, to that exact point, and Jack, I think you're onto something there. Bruno, in an era where streaming is this prevalent, should the Oscars adapt their criteria to reflect audience behavior where people are actually engaging with movies, for example, on streaming, rather than like, should the Academy's job be to drive people to theaters, I guess is the question.
No, and this goes back to something that we talked about at CinemaCon, how like Paramount sort of like called out to the theater companies saying that they had to start doing stuff on their end to like get people to start going to theaters again. And I think like, and what I mean by that is that like I think what the Academy should be doing is trying to just promote these conversations between the studio heads and the theater heads more to like try to find some common ground to get a good enough people going to the theaters. Because I guess at least me personally, I'm a little bit against like Jack's idea in that I do want this status quo protected. I do want theaters to stay up because especially like in recent years, we've had a handful of movies that has kind of proven that going to the theater to watch it is a little bit better than just watching it at home. But again, like that's not the majority of the industry right now. It's the majority is moving in a different direction, and they are sort of like fighting against the grain. I just don't know how much they can really fight.
Well, and it's, I can watch a movie in 4K and in surround sound in my living room in my not great apartment nowadays. It's like the appeal of a theater has changed a lot from providing a genuinely improved movie experience. And I think if you look at things that have had successful theatrical runs, it's like Barbie and Oppenheimer, or it's like the new Minecraft movie that has this whole cultural thing around it. It's like about going to be in a place with other people, which is, I think, something people miss more than just going to see it on a big screen. But theaters haven't leaned into that very much, I don't think.
But that exact sentiment is what's keeping people away in large part too. The idea of being around other people and having
Well,
popcorn
I
thrown
suppose
out.
it depends on your
because-
personality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think a good movie is a good movie regardless of where you see it.
My issue does come like sometimes with the movies themselves, because if we have like, for example, Killers of the Flower Moon, I watched that at home on streaming, and like I was able to pause at any time, go out to walk the dog for 20 minutes, go use the bathroom, go do whatever if like I had to do stuff around the house. In the theater, I am committing myself to sitting for those full 3.5 hours, and the viewing experience is going to be different that way. Because if I'm just cutting it all up and having breaks in between, it's going to be a lesser quality experience, without a doubt. Like I've had that experience watching movies at work. It's very different from watching movies just like sitting down and committing to the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I prefer to commit the time, and that's sort of why I like to go to the theater. Is I'm like, this is what I'm just doing for these 2.5 hours, and like it will be funny that every once like the other day I went to go see the Revenge of the Sith re-release in the theaters. And I went on a pretty early, like middle of the afternoon, like a real, I work from home and have nothing to do today time slot. And was by myself in the theater at the Alamo, right? So like I had like food and drink service in my private screening of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. But like I was texting Deepak throughout because I was like, I'm by myself in a theater watching a movie I've seen a billion times. Right. But typically I like that sort of environment encourages me to like not be on my phone. Right. I sort of think it's wild that people still will get on their phone at a movie theater, to be honest. But
yeah.
Remember second screening when we talked about that the other day?
Yeah. Speaking of movies that'll end up getting consideration runs, The Continuing Adventures of Cliff Booth has entered production. So the upcoming Netflix film, The Continuing Adventures of Cliff Booth, is set to begin filming in July 2025 with a projected release date for 2026. It is the sequel to Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that brings back Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, now transitioning from stuntman to Hollywood studio fixer in the late 70s. The film promises to delve into the darker side of Hollywood's golden era, exploring scandals and secrets behind the scenes. David Fincher of Seven and Aliens 3 will direct, with Tarantino penning the script and both serving as producers alongside Pitt. Deepak, how do you think Fincher's general style is going to influence the portrayal of 1970s Hollywood compared to Tarantino's vision in the original film?
Yeah, I was a little confused when I thought of Fincher doing a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but doing it sort of as on the seedy underbelly of Hollywood during the 70s makes a lot more sense for him. This feels like an extension of what he was doing in Mank. He'll probably lean into a little bit more of the 70s stylistic choices. He'll obviously lean into a lot more of the, like they say, darker aspects of the job. It sounds like it's basically going to be the Cliff Booth version of like Michael Clayton or something like that. I'm here for anything Fincher does. Obviously, his last couple, Mank was good, Killer was good. I think this has potential to be better than both of them. And it's nice to see him reunited with Pitt because I don't think they've worked together since Benjamin Button.
Yeah, I think that's right. And they were really on fire there for a while. You know, Bruno, Fincher, his titles tend to be talking about more than one thing when he's making a movie, right? Like there's usually a commentary, a sort of social reading of society writ large that's going on in his movies. In what ways do you think Cliff Booth's transition to being like this type of like scuzzy Hollywood underbelly fixer type of guy is any kind of commentary on like the entertainment industry or Fincher's like role in the, you know, whole streaming situation, etc.?
I mean, I think it's definitely going to have like a lot, because like in The Killer, I caught a lot of like when it comes to like the whole idea of like getting the perfect shot for like the protagonist in that movie. I saw that as like a very like autobiographical thing from Fincher, and I think we could get a lot of that same thing from the Cliff Booth Adventures, just going over different things that Fincher has seen himself, like as being a part of Hollywood and being a part of the industry. I think we're going to get a lot of like commentary on just sort of like similar to how we've been getting with the studio lately on Apple TV, where they've been giving us a lot of the inside baseball of movie industries, but we're going to take a step further and going a little bit more deeper into, I don't know if you guys have been on Max, but recently they started a new docuseries called Hollywood Demons, which is just essentially just diving into all of these scandals that people don't even know about. And I think we're going to be getting into that a lot as well.
That'd be cool.
With it being like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel, I start thinking about like real life scandals that Fincher could take and tweak, because a Once Upon a Life in Hollywood is a very like alternate history kind of deal with the whole idea behind Sharon Tate's murder and all that. Spoiler alert for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But yeah, I think we could get something like that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just
I was
last
saying
thing.
that's a really good point, because it's the first time we're doing a sequel to one of Tarantino's alternative histories.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the version of the industry that we're going to be seeing is one that hasn't been affected by Sharon Tate's murder.
Mhm.
So what is that 70s Hollywood going to look like in comparison to the actual 1970s Hollywood?
Right.
Will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that movie. I feel like when we first heard it announced, I was a little confused by it. The more we talk about it on this show, the more I look forward to seeing it. So next year, we'll see what happens. All right.
In my living room.
Next year, right?
I also just want a fun little bit where he needs to go hunt down a key grip, and it's just a joke about how the key grip is usually like the strongest person on the crew.
Mm-hmm.
I hope
I'd be excited to
Bruce
see
Lee
something
again.
like that.
All right, next up in the roundup, Microsoft has raised the price of all Xbox Series consoles. Xbox games are confirmed to hit $80 this holiday season. This is reporting from IGN. Microsoft announced a global price increase for its Xbox consoles, accessories, and first-person games effective May 1st, 2025. The Xbox Series X now costs $599.99, which is up $100.
That's too many dollars.
Well, the Series
It's quite a bit.
The Series S 512 gigabit model went up by $80 to $379.99. The new 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Special Edition is priced at $729.99. And accessories like controllers and headsets have also seen price hikes. Additionally, starting this holiday season, some first-party Xbox games will be priced at, you heard it right, $79.99, aligning with similar increases from competitors like Nintendo and Sony. Microsoft attributes these increases to rising development costs and changing market conditions, including supply chain distributions and tariffs on Chinese imports. Despite these challenges, the company reported strong financial performance with a 45% year-over-year increase in PC Game Pass revenue, and
I was worried for a second.
And the leading position in game pre-orders and pre-installs across all platforms. So yeah, crying all the way to the bank. Jackson.
Hi.
I guess your general reaction to all of this. I do have a specific question, which is how do rising consoles and game prices influence your decision to invest in new hardware and new titles? But also just like, hey, what the hell, man?
Yeah, it's rough out here. The PlayStation also increased in price, and obviously Nintendo, like you referenced, Nintendo's first party. Some of Nintendo's first party games seem to be going to $80. It feels like not that long ago when we were just getting used to games going from $60 to $70. So as for how does that impact my choices, I think that there's a lot of great indie games out there that are not $80 and tend to be much more worth your time.
Yeah.
You can't, I will get off of this soapbox when it stops entertaining me. You can buy Balatro for $5 and you will never need to buy any other video game in your life. We have just been, Riley, you and I have been talking a lot about Blueprints, which I, not to give anything away, thought that I beat, and it turns out it was like chapter 1. Even
I was surprised when you were texting me about it yesterday, and you were like asking me about puzzles. I was like, I thought you finish this.
And then even my pop culture recommendation today is going to be this new like AA game that came out that is only $50. So if you're looking to get value out of your money, I think there are places to do it that are not first party games. And if you really don't like this, I think the only meaningful way we can communicate it is not to buy them.
Well,
If you do really want to buy them, and there are some games in this category that I plan to try to find them used, which will obviously be cheaper for me, and also the profits won't go to the studio, which I normally don't like. Like, I used to like buying new games specifically to support the game studios, but sometimes you don't have $80 to throw around. I get it.
How times have changed.
it's interesting, right? Because on this network, we have tried to really spotlight indie gaming, which we're going to continue to try and do this season. Indie gaming check-in coming soon. We're talking Blueprints. We're talking South of Midnight. We're talking Expedition 33. We've also tried to advocate for taking advantage of subscription services that can kind of save you a little bit of money. And Bruno, this also is going to be an increase in subscription services like Game Pass becoming maybe a better option now if individual games are going to be costing more. And so far, we're not seeing a huge increase in the Game Pass cost. Is that, do you think, is a better option for people these days?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. The past 5 or 6 games I finished were all on Game Pass.
Yeah.
We're all via Game Pass.
Oblivion re-release now on Game Pass?
Exactly. Yep. Like much to Jack's point, like I am saving myself from like going deep and like using a lot of money to buy all of these like AAA or AA games when I can, when I would rather just be spending the money picking up indie games.
I was pumped that South of Midnight was on Game Pass.
Yeah. Blueprints is too. I didn't know until I got it and had already bought the game, but I like playing it on Steam Deck anyway.
Blueprints is like built for Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And like eventually the games come off of Game Pass, but like if I like the game enough and I haven't finished it by that point, then I'll just go ahead and buy it. Like I did that with the Yakuza series the other day, but like the Yakuza series is also like decades old, so I didn't really care about the pricing at that point.
All right, so this last thing in the roundup comes to us courtesy of Jackson, who texted me this link saying, "This seems like the kind of bullshit you like to put in the podcast." He wasn't wrong. Sperm racing is a thing now. I read they had their inaugural race this last week. I read their manifesto.
Congratulations to everyone involved.
You did watch it, Bruno?
Oh yeah, no, I watched the race.
Good, fantastic. I read their manifesto. It introduces a groundbreaking concept, transforming male fertility awareness into an engaging sport. I can't imagine this has anything to do with the amount of bets you can put on this in quick succession on prominent apps.
I did see one of the I did find this because people were betting on it, and one of the comments was that people were requesting testosterone levels of the racers.
God, just awful stuff.
I mean, yeah,
real Squid Game shit. Of course, these people have some harebrained thoughts about male fertility because all crazy guys on the internet have harebrained thoughts about male fertility. I'm going to read a couple sentences here that are going to be upsetting, and we're just going to try and power through them. By designing a microscopic racetrack that simulates the female reproductive system, complete with chemical signals and fluid dynamics, the project turns sperm movement into a spectacular event. High-resolution cameras capture the races, which are live streamed with statistics, leaderboards, and commentaries, making the invisible visible and entertaining. Period. The overarching goal is to make discussion about male reproductive health more mainstream and encourage individuals to monitor and improve their fertility health, much like athletes train for physical competitions. We certainly do want people to be healthy. Deepak, what were your thoughts? You gonna get it? You entering the league, bud?
I have nothing left to prove.
That's a great point.
Fair enough.
You know, I'm good. I'm good.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
These rookies are out here.
Fred and I are good, man. We're safe.
Jacking it into a fluid dynamic based race system.
I want to. I feel like there's significant improvements to be made in terms of racetrack design.
Yeah, you and Bruno
I
are
get what
here
they're
to
going for.
improve the gamification.
I just feel like I could be like a Formula One track designer for Sperm.
I would like to point out that during the race they were playing Formula One sound effects on the speakers.
Just
Is this what the Brad Pitt movie is really going to be about?
absolute
Is this what F1 is?
Hearst stuff. I would be more. I want to know when does the stopwatch begin once everybody's in the racetrack, or like is opening the paddock doors a part of the competition, so to speak?
So they so like
They die so quickly, right?
So like they were going in like the circular chamber until they opened the paddock doors for them to like start moving down the track. But the thing is, when the paddock doors opened, one of the groups, like it was two teams. One of the teams just immediately got out of the chamber. The other one stayed in the chamber for like a few more circles.
Lollygagging.
Gross.
Well, despicable amount of sperm talk.
Yeah,
in
a
the
lot of talking about sperm.
Why
in the
did we put
headlines.
this in the podcast? I'm actually debating cutting this down in post.
No, it has to stay. It's important. It's worth it.
That's Nerded Here fertility for this week.
All right.
It's about fertility health.
When we get back, may the 4th be with you.
Fuck my life.
Hey, everybody, we're back, and it's time to talk about Star Wars, because as we're recording this, it is the 4th of May, and it has been 6 years since we have had a theatrical Star Wars movie. So I thought it would be worth us checking in to talk about what's going on in the Star Wars universe. Let's scene set here for a second, guys. There are currently
Imagine a Star War.
right, like the number of Star Wars things that are out there that were at one point greenlit and we now know are not happening, or were one point greenlit and are now maybe happening. At one point were greenlit and are now maybe happening in a new direction. Like, it's such a mess. And I know we've sort of tried to.
I was just talking about this yesterday with my friend.
Yep.
We've sort of tried to sort
You
through
should have
it
recorded it
a little
Jack. We
bit
could have skipped
in
this.
different ways at different points in history. But I thought we would start this conversation by just squaring up with what is actually happening. So the two things that I think we are pretty sure are actually happening at this point are The Mandalorian and Grogu, which by all accounts is done, is in the can, and is ready to be released next year. Scheduled for release May 22nd, 2026. Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all sort of wrapped up in one movie. Seems like putting Baby Yoda on the big screen seems like it should be a moneymaker, no?
Yeah, they're really
Dr.
striking when the
Took this
iron's hot on that one.
Yeah. Well,
That was a joke.
I mean, the it is certainly the golden goose, but yeah, no, you're right. Like it's taken forever to get this thing done. I don't know. I mean, I do think that most kids, when they think about Star Wars, still register with like Mandalorian. But yeah, why is this movie not coming out 2 years ago? I mean,
And when was Mandalorian season 1?
Because Disney is run by a bunch of idiots.
well,
Or Lucasfilm, I should say, rather. But it's not their fault. It's the fans' fault. The fans never know what they want.
no.
So therefore, the people making the content never know
2019.
what they want.
I mean,
So-
we need to take into account that like we kind of lost a year to the strikes.
The strikes definitely happened. COVID definitely happened. The negative reaction to Rise of Skywalker definitely happened. Like, I think all of that stuff sort of in a slurry
Right.
makes it difficult to move forward. I think
Right. And without the strikes, we know they would have made a really great movie that everyone would have loved. So, yeah.
I think the
Like we had such a track record of before.
I think the massive push towards streaming stuff didn't help. I think that the just massive influx of we're going to make stuff didn't necessarily help. And to some extent, I don't know, maybe Deepak's right. Like, I feel like I have had more faith than most in Kathleen Kennedy. She is on her way out
I don't think it's her fault.
presently.
I don't blame her.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I agree with you then. But so she's on her way out, and we will see if Favreau and Filoni take a new direction. You know, I feel like Filoni has always sort of been the like problematic fanboy favorite of the Star Wars creative directive these days. But maybe that'll calm fans down. I don't know. But so anyway, we get Mandalorian and Grogu, and then the other one we have coming is Star Wars Starfighter, the Sean Levy directed, Ryan
Rolls
Gosling
right off the tongue.
starring. 5 years post Rise of Skywalker, X-wing pilot movie, I suppose.
Star Wars Starfighter does, I mean, I just have to say, sound like a parody title.
I'm hoping
It's a video game. It's an old video game.
so. I think that this has to have ultimately started life as the
Poe Dameron origin story.
well, and yeah, who was it that was going to be doing? Was it Patty Jenkins was going to be?
Patty Jenkins was going to do Rogue Squadron. I think.
And I feel I felt like this must have been Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron that eventually all that got shut down. But I am really at this point, since it's a Sean Levy film, I am holding my breath for the Star Wars Starfighter Stunt Spectacular at Disneyland.
What does Sean Levy have to do with that?
Isn't he like a big time stunt guy?
You're thinking of the Fall Guy director.
You're thinking about David Leitch, yeah.
Oh. Who am I?
Sean Levy's the guy who did Deadpool 3 and a bunch of other forgettable stuff.
He did
Night at the Museum.
He did Adam's Project and Night at the Museum, and
Real Steel.
It immediately makes me think this is going to be like Gosling, like coaching or mentoring like a younger character, for sure.
Like Top Gun in Star Wars. Yeah,
this does seem challenging.
No, not even Top Gun. I mean a younger character, as in like a kid.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
I think that's what Top Gun and Star Wars is.
Well, the last Top Gun was basically Star Wars. So.
Last Top Gun. Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. All right, now let's talk about stuff that is probably in development, but we have no actual hard timelines around. So the first thing is a Rey-centric Star Wars film that's supposed to be set 15 years after Rise of Skywalker and focus on Rey establishing a new Jedi Order. I like that Deepak's iPad knows to like slowly zoom in on his frustration.
Did this weird Jim from the Office
as I read this out loud. I don't know. I mean, fine. Why has this taken so? If this is your idea, why did it take so long to come up with? Let's do another Daisy Ridley movie.
Because it's episode 10, and they are too overthinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that is okay. So I guess this is sort of the structure. This is sort of the structure for this set. Here's different paths. Which of these paths would you, as a Star Wars fan, like to see the franchise follow?
These are your first steps.
So here's option one is what's next for the Skywalkers. So there you go. There's option one. Option two is Dawn of the Jedi. We have a project helmed by James Mangold that is supposed to explore the origins of the Jedi Order. Supposed to currently be in development. Then we have Dave Filoni's New Republic era movie. It's supposed to be set during the New Republic. It aims to tie together narratives from different Disney Plus stuff. Probably some things that got dropped from novels and stuff like that, knowing Filoni. There is no release date to be announced. Then we have Simon Kinberg's supposed trilogy of
trash. It's not going to happen.
Films that you would assume would take things off in a new direction. Which of those would you like to see as like the guiding light for the future of Star Wars? Deepak Bruno Jackson.
Give me Mangold exploring Jedi lore, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know that I care enough about a new trilogy of episodes. I mean, not that I have anything against the Rey character, despite what my iPad tried to imply there. I don't see why we need to keep up with the episodes. And Filoni, New Republic, I don't really. I mean, as a series, I guess it's interesting, but I've never been a huge fan of Filoni, so I guess the outlier there. And Kinberg has yet to do anything good as a director. As a writer, maybe he's okay, but as a director, he has not been. So, give me Mangold and hopefully keep Bob Dylan away from it too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want the ones that offer like new stuff in this world, which is not Rey, and it's not really. I mean, I am a pretty big fan of Dave Filoni, although I never watched much of his Star Wars stuff, but I love Avatar, obviously, the real one, and But I think that this world is so big and has such interesting potential for storytelling and has been so crippled by its formatting and its insistence to stick with the Skywalkers. We've talked about all of this. So I would even also be nervous about them doing another trilogy, because that's just like doing more of the same thing, even if they say they're going to take it in a new direction. So I do think I agree that my favorite of these options is Dawn of the Jedi, although I also inserted, without asking, into the list my favorite Star Wars content that is being produced right now, which is Star Wars Visions, which is, I think, the only thing that's being made that they're just like, this isn't canon. And because of it, it's all very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the fact that it's not canon actually makes it maybe my preferred option also.
mhm.
Were you just a bunch of
I'm-
Star Wars Vision? Bruno, you co-sign Star Wars Visions?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Jack put me on Star Wars Visions just like one random day when they just showed up at my house and was just like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" And like 3
Is
hours
there already
later,
something out?
it's been out. I think they're working on.
Yeah,
season.
there are 2 seasons out now, and they're coming out with the
Oh,
third.
shows you how much I know.
The first season was all Japanese animation studios,
Yeah.
and then the second season was more European ones, and then season 3 is going back to a lot of the season 1 episodes and doing sequels for some, and just getting the same studios for others.
Mhm.
And they're doing long form content with Star Wars Visions Presents, and the first one is going to be The Ninth Jedi, which is, I think, a sequel to The Ninth Jedi, which is, I think, the most interesting out of anything they've made. I think that should just be canon. I think it's great.
Yeah. I'm just tired in general about anything Skywalker related. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
When it comes to Dave Filoni, like, just looking at his resume, stick to animation, dude. I'm kind of just
Yeah.
You're good in there. Just don't do anything
think
live
that's
action. Simon Kinberg wrote The Martian, which is genuinely one of my favorite movies. Period.
It's a great movie. He also had a great book to base it on, though.
Exactly, that as well. But he also directed Dark Phoenix. Hard stop. So it's Dawn of the Jedi for me, especially with James Mangold behind it.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I fall as well. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and when we get back, I'm going to talk about theme parks.
You made it, Deepak. You made it through.
We're not doing uncertain future projects in limbo.
Did you want to talk? You really wanted to talk about Taika's Star
No.
Wars movie?
I just I can't believe I'm that lucky that you guys are.
Yeah.
You guys really like
No,
that.
was-
Wait, Ryan Johnson's trilogy. Oh, let's go. No, I'm kidding. Let's move
That's
on.
never happening. We know that.
thought it-
Taika Waititi, his career is over. Thank Christ.
We mentioned that Rogue Squadron is probably where this other thing came from, and I felt like that was everything we needed to talk about in that section.
Yeah, I don't know if the trilogy announced before episode 9 came out is something that we need to discuss.
Wake Up Dead
Yeah.
Man. Hopefully later this year from Ryan Johnson. We'll see.
It's going to be later this year. He's fighting to get it in theaters. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have to talk about theme parks. I don't know how up you are on the most recent theme park news. Per usual, I will be assuming you know nothing. Epic Universe. Where are we on Epic Universe? Are we familiar? We've talked about it on this
Yeah.
podcast before.
Yeah, it's that universe that's epic, right? Yeah.
So
Me and my folks were literally planning a trip yesterday about it.
So we've talked about it on this show before. It is the third gate at Universal Orlando Resort in Florida. It is approximately 750 acres, which nearly doubled Universal's Orlando footprint. It includes Super
Insane.
Nintendo World. It includes the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Ministry of Magic. It includes How to Train Your Dragon Island. It includes Dark Universe, the home of the Frankensteins and all their nefarious experimentation. And it contains Celestial Park, which is the central hub of gardens and fountains and high-priced hotels that connects all these disparate worlds together. There was going to be some cool characters in Celestial Park, but it is in previews right now. People are going in previews, and the reports have been that there have not been sightings of Vincent Various or his many compatriots. So we'll see if they come through later. There is, however, let me see if I can do this, Higgledy, a new house elf character in the Harry Potter attraction.
What about Piggledy?
She's just hanging around doing her thing.
Is she? Okay.
So
Is she hot?
I've not seen images. The Harry Potter stuff, not where I'm putting in a lot of my time. I can tell you a lot about the character actors who are featured in the Dark Universe section, playing like Igor and the Invisible Man and stuff. but I can't tell you much about Higgledy, to be honest. Although
Igor.
Igor's good looking. Igor's got a ton of charisma. The Ministry
He's carrying a lot on his back.
The Ministry of Magic thing does look exactly like the inside of that fifth Harry Potter movie where Dumbledore and Voldemort like have their duel. Like
all the little
huge
fireplaces where
it's gigantic, and that really looks amazing. The Mario World stuff looks very cool as well, obviously. I'm not super into like I'm just not well versed in How to Train Your Dragon. I've like not seeped myself in that.
You don't know How to Train Your Dragon.
I'm not familiar with how one trains a dragon.
Have I got the live action movie for you?
But it looks really cool. Just like from what I've seen, the images and stuff there look really cool. So that all's been going on. That's happening in previews. That park formally opens later this month. It opens May 22nd.
Exciting.
Okay, so all that's happening in Florida. Meanwhile, in LA, there was a special fan event running from April 25th to May 18th. That was sort of like, you know how in the fall they'll do Fright Nights, right? Where you can go down to Universal Hollywood and get spooked by a clown with a chainsaw or whatever.
Your call. I've been spooked by my share of clowns with chainsaw.
So this was a separate ticketed after-hours attraction that was celebrating fantasy, gaming, sci-fi, and anime. So here were the attractions that you could experience at FanFest.
Why am I only just hearing about this now?
Jack, I'm really disappointed we didn't go. Here's what you could check out at FanFest. There were immersive themed zones around Star Trek, Back to the Future, Dungeons and Dragons, One Piece, and you guys are going to have to help me with this one, but Jujutsu Kaisen?
Pretty good.
Nice.
We'll take that.
There was an exclusive merchandise. There was food and drinks. There were interactive experiences.
You sent me a big animatronic beholder.
There was an animatronic beholder in the D&D thing that was like one of those. A beholder, in case you're not well versed in D&D, is one of those monsters that's just like a big sphere with a big mouth and one eye, and then lots of.
And in case you are versed in D&D, I think it was Xanathar.
It was Xanathar, yeah. In case you are well versed in D&D,
that's what I thought.
In the Star Trek one, you all got to like fly the Enterprise for a second. In the Back to the Future one, the like stuff that happens in the town, you're in the town square in Back to the Future because you're on the actual set they used to shoot that section of Back to the Future, and they have like
the 1980s version or the Back to the Future 2 version.
I think it's set to be the 80s.
Okay.
Or it might actually be set to be the 50s. It's the 50s, I believe. Because you have all the stuff happening in the background, and then like it's like a 1 hour loop, and then once it's over and the lightning strikes, they like set off a firework and the car goes or whatever.
That's cool.
So
that does sound fun.
That just all sounded very cool, and I was like, kind of to
Yeah.
Jack's point, I was sort of like, man, if we had known about this like a couple months ago, we probably could have coordinated a group trip to go check this thing out. So yeah, I just thought that also sounded very cool. They're also getting ready in August. They're opening their Las Vegas-based horror experience that's going to feature
horror experience.
Horror.
Oh, you said Vegas.
Yeah, no,
horror.
Yeah,
I heard Deepak say war experience, and I was very confused.
No.
War
Las
Horse?
Vegas horror experience. I was like, they've
That's
been
my
doing
favorite
that for
movie,
years.
War Horse.
That's Las Vegas.
Love that War Horse. Yeah, so they're gonna have Exorcist, the Universal Monsters, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then this was something called Scarecrow the Reaping. That one I was unfamiliar with, but those will all be at the Universal Vegas Halloween boutique. So just lots of cool stuff coming from Universal. Wanted to report back on it. Thank you for your time.
That sounds rad as hell. Now I'm sad. Thank you.
When we get back, Sinners. And we're back. All right, guys. So we all saw Sinners. We didn't get a chance to circle up on it and do a proper review. I wanted to talk a little bit review. I wanted to talk a little bit just like sort of the news story that came out of Sinners being sort of what it was, both in terms of production and then the reception that it got. And obviously, as like it sold and sold more tickets, sort of the magnitude of that conversation got louder. I think the top line headlines are making a good amount of money, biggest original live action film debut since COVID, beating out Jordan Peele's Nope. Coogler's best opening outside of Black Panther. 99% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And
Those are pretty good headlines.
And Ryan Coogler himself will own it. Right? Like, this will not be this
in 20 years.
In 25 years, I think.
Yeah.
So what
which is still a short period of time compared
which is
to
not
most
not a long time at all. Yeah.
Right.
What does it mean? Let me open up to the room. Just like, how do we react to? And I mean, I think this is sort of what we're going to be talking about in a larger way. So like, don't feel like you need to get all your ideas out here. But I think this is sort of just like saying the quiet part out loud. And I haven't seen a lot of reporting on this topic actually say the quiet part out loud on this. What does it mean that we have a black R-rated non-IP vampire thriller dominating the box office in the early parts of 2025?
don't know.
I mean, among other things, I think it means that people are, as we've been saying, getting increasingly tired of the opposite of all of those things.
Yeah.
We're tired of bigots.
I think in a lot of ways people are tired of sameness. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I saw people comparing this movie to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I literally had someone compare it to that yesterday.
I don't
like that doesn't make any sense
Much
other
better.
than that it's like an original story.
Right.
Yeah.
Bruno, I want to get your reaction to this as well, but I have seen people making that comparison, and my thought has sort of been like, yeah, I guess in the sense that like it's very original.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, I suppose so. But Bruno, what did you think about people making that comparison around like the genre mashing or whatever?
I mean, yeah, I guess it is. Those have to do with genre mashing, but like that's literally it. Also, there's like, it's not the only like sort of genre fluid movie that we've gotten this year. Frankly, I made this comment the other day. It is the third genre fluid movie with the lead actor playing twins this year.
Getting a lot of twin movies this year so far. We've got The Monkey.
Monkey. We got Mickey 17 by a stretch, and
Yep.
then we got Sinners right now.
Mm-hmm. I felt like there was a fourth one, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But yeah.
Please don't tell me there's a fourth one. 4 nickels?
They'd be
That'd be ridiculous.
They'd be out there.
But no, I mean, I do see some of the comparisons with, like I said, just people want to see stuff that they hadn't seen before. It's the same thing that we were talking about with Star Wars. And
Right.
increasingly with Marvel sticking around and still doing the same thing that they've been doing for almost 20 years now.
Mhm.
I think any original story will bring more and more people to it in droves. But I certainly didn't expect it to do this well.
No, I agree. So just for anybody who's been under the rock and has missed out, Sinners is set in a Jim Crow era Mississippi and stars Michael B. Jordan in a dual role as twin brothers Smoke and Stack. It is, I think there is some level of genre bendiness to it. I think it combines elements of dramatic thrillers and survival horrors and historical fantasy. There are one or two pretty good musical elements that I thought really worked in the movie. There's one dance scene that's getting a lot of ink spilled about it that was really, really incredible.
We could also put an erotic thriller in there, let's be honest.
There are 4 discrete sex scenes in this film. There are 4 acts of consensual lovemaking in this movie. In this economy, when the teens are out here yelling about how the fictional characters haven't given their consent to be watched, we get 4 discrete acts of sexual
Is that
lovemaking.
what the argument is?
But that's my understanding of it, yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
And on top of that, a lot of discussion about how to perform effective cunnilingus. A lot of
like a huge amount.
This was a horny ass
More than I've maybe ever
This is
seen in any other
exactly the
movie.
movie I've been waiting for.
Okay. So Deepak, go on. Let's just get your general reaction to the film, Deepak, since we're not going to have the opportunity to do a full review episode.
I'm glad you specified to the film and not to the cunnilingus. Yeah, no, it's really good. I love that it takes its time. It takes like a whole half for, you could say, almost anything to happen. But it's perfect that way. We're very slowly introduced to the twins, their friends, the relationships they all have, backstories for all of them. Delroy Lindo, incredible as always. The newcomer, Simon Caton, I think is his name, who plays the guitar.
Mhm.
Apparently, he was discovered by being a backup singer for HER.
He was
Yeah, and
incredible.
apparently
He's
sings
incredible.
like a motherfucker.
He's
The
incredible.
voice on
I
that
don't
kid.
know the actress's name who plays his love interest, but she is the mayor-elect in the Batman movie. But
Yeah.
she's also very good. All the actors are great. Haley Steinfeld, I still feel a little uncomfortable watching because she's always little Maddie Ross for
I
me.
know.
But she's also very good. My only complaint about it was that I just thought it went a little too long, especially at the end. It kind of, the movie ends and then goes on for another 10 minutes because it wants to do this like little Django Unchained thing.
I almost
where
feel like
we-
it does that because it needs to have that shot in the trailer, so that there's an action shot in the trailer that isn't vampires.
It's interesting.
Of him shooting the
I got to
gun.
I got to the point where I was fully like, oh, they cut him shooting the gun in the field. That's weird.
Right.
Like they put that in the trailer and it's just fully not going to be in the movie.
Am I the only one who thought that ending sequence was actually very cohesive to everything else?
I liked the ending. I thought you were talking about the post credits, Deepak.
No. The post. I actually didn't even stay for that. I didn't realize there was anything happening. I thought it was just going to show him playing music throughout the credits.
Oh no,
but
it's like the
no,
last scene
I'm
of the
talking
movie.
about. No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the KKK stuff, and it felt cohesive because we'd already talked about him and Wonmi Musaku, who's incredible in everything she does. And if you haven't seen His House, go watch His House. But they talk about how they had a daughter who passed away, and that kind of ties in with him, passing away at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. I thought that was beautifully done. It just felt like the movie had ended, and then we got kind of like an extended scene
I
afterwards.
think it's like thematically cohesive because he'd also just spent all night trying to defend against a pale-skinned invader who was trying to take advantage of his culture for their own profit.
Right.
And like,
right, and it also kind of, there's too much plot of like, oh, the what's his name, Remick, the main white vampire guy, is his son or nephew or something, and it's all kind of tying together. It's like, I don't know what we need.
He turned was the nephew.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, one of the people he turned was the nephew. That's how he got that information through. Like,
the first
hive mind
family
thing
that he
had.
walks in on was the nephew and his racist wife.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Right.
It's just
the Native Americans were looking for him at the beginning. Yeah.
That's what I want to know more about. How did
that's
he
what
get
Jack
here?
and I
What
are.
were they up
We
to?
want the movie of Native. We want Prey with Native Americans hunting a vampire through the Badlands.
Yeah.
That's the movie I want out of this. When
That would
Coogler
be
gets
cool.
his sequel rights back. Okay, so we should talk about the deal, both because we like to take fun, exciting things like vampire movies starring Michael B. Jordan and turn them into boring
And turn them into
boardroom
business
discussions.
discussions.
Yeah. But also because the bigger and more successful this movie got, the more and more your proverbial Hollywood fat cat could not stop clutching his pearls over the way that this movie was set up. Deepak, while Bruno has his brain melt out of his ear at the remembering that the Alto Nights was a thing that came out this year, could you
God damn it!
Could you explain
Something I
Did you
will
forget
definitely
about? I
be
thought that
watching
was
on
definitely
streaming.
one of the ones you were talking about.
Something oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's not a
Yeah,
twin.
that
He's
was
just
that was
double
the
acting.
craziest one to me. Is it's
That's
like
the worst one.
He's not a
He's
twin.
two different guys.
Right.
He's just two De Niros, two discrete De
Right.
Niros.
And I did say genre fluid. I don't think that one's gonna fit the term genre fluid.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
saying gender fluid. My bad.
That'd be
Well,
fun.
have you heard about his?
If I said gender fluid, I need to go back and do some ADR in post. But thank you for telling
no,
me. that.
you didn't. I'm joking.
Deepak, can you talk us through sort of the nature of how this deal came into place?
It's very similar to apparently how Tarantino bid for or got studios to bid for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The movie came out in 19, but I believe the bidding war was in 17 in the wake of the Harvey Weinstein fallout, Me Too. Tarantino had worked with Weinstein for almost his entire career up to that point. Now he had to find a new home. So part of the bidding at that time and now for Sinners was for Sinners, I believe it was Warner Brothers, Universal, and Sony that were in the mix. And what put Warner Brothers over the top was that they were willing to meet Coogler's request of having the rights go to him, meaning that the studio, after 25 years, will no longer own the intellectual property related to the movie itself. They will not be able to make sequels, prequels, remakes, merchandise, anything related to it. It will revert fully to Coogler and his estate for him to control what's called the negative. for him to. It's effectively sort of what Lucas had control over with Star Wars for many years until the Disney sale went through. And what Tarantino has struck for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Sony, I think his was a 20-year time frame, but I may be misremembering that. And that was 20 years since release, and we're now about 6 years past that. So
I also just
yeah.
want to call out that part of this, like on the Warner's side of it all, is we have to really cast our memories back to the era when people like Denis Villeneuve and Christopher Nolan were fucking pissed at Warner Brothers for the decision to go day and date during the pandemic.
2021.
Villeneuve wrote that Warner Brothers might have just killed the Dune franchise in an op-ed for Variety that year. This was when Villeneuve decided to leave Warner Brothers to make Oppenheimer at Universal.
That was Nolan, not Villeneuve.
Pardon me, Nolan. And in the
Nolan left. I thought Nolan left after Tenet.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because Tenet got day and dated.
No, it didn't. Tenet got a theatrical, but it flopped. Remember we went and saw it at the drive-in?
That's right. But no, so that decision is why he is part of what his calculus was to go do Oppenheimer. And so our guy, David Zaslav, your best friend and mine, I appointed DeLuca and Abney at Warner Brothers, Pam Abdi and Michael DeLuca. He appointed them to be sort of head of Warner Brothers picture making, and their attitude was that they were going to start taking huge swings. So they are the ones that signed Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another for $130 million. They gave Maggie Gyllenhaal $80 million to make her Bride of Frankenstein movie. They gave Saltburn writer-director Emerald Fennell $80 million to adapt Wuthering Heights. And they did Sinners. And that's all sort of in the wake of Joker, Folie à Deux, and of course others just not making last year the greatest Warner's year in the world. So that's why they were like willing to make this deal with Coogler, is they were like sort of looking for huge names, doing big things. They wanted to take a risk. They wanted to like take big swings and potentially hit home runs. And that's sort of how we've ended up here. But yeah, I mean, we have so many quotes in the doc. I'm not going to have time to read them all. I don't even want to read them all, but they're all, if we as a studio give that to Coogler when somebody else we really want to do business with says, hey, I want to make this deal too, and you say, no, I only gave it to him, how can we expect it to make it work with us? It's a bad time for the business. It's a bad time for filmmaking. Another studio exec said, it could be the end of the studio system. Studios exist for one reason only, to build a library. The lifetime long-term value of our film properties is what makes a studio a studio. It's why David Ellison wants to buy Paramount. A whole other problem we could talk about, by the way. We have not delved into the Paramount situation at all on this show. But like, it was so transparent to me, because who else is in the copyright club? Deepak, who are our boys? We've got Mel Gibson. Nobody seems to mind that he owns the copyright on Passions. We've got Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We've got Richard Linklater on Boyhood. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And because of how it was made, just like that it took so long.
Yeah,
Right.
No studio was willing to take that deal.
And Peter Jackson owns the copyright on District 9 because he helped get that was part of his deal for getting it made.
Then Spielberg probably owns copyrights on a bunch of stuff he's produced.
Like
Does he own the
Amblin?
copyright on Back to the Future?
Yeah, I'm sure he owns a ton of the Amblin stuff. But like, one of these things is not like the other, right? Like, it's just so fucking transparent that Ryan Coogler gets the most financially successful of those movies, and everyone loses their minds.
Yeah, it's not subtle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go ahead, Bruno, please.
Sorry. Go ahead. I have just something for the end. Don't worry about it.
I was just going to toss out that there are other like proactive deals getting made though that I was like very kind of curious to see. By the way, the Abdi and DeLuca movies that they were trying to follow up, I did find my full list here: Alto Nights, Mickey 17, Joker, Folie à Deux, Furiosa, the Mad Max saga. And then the Minecraft movie was
the Mad Max saga.
Was like sort of a step in the right direction for them. but was like the first step in the right direction after a while. Okay, so other cool deals that are getting done right now was sort of a section of the homework that I assigned myself. We have Greta Gerwig, Chronicles of Narnia movies, are getting 1,000 theaters in 90 countries and IMAX distribution for 2 weeks before going to Netflix, which I thought was more theater time from Netflix than I think I've ever heard of before. And then Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who of course have been doing their own thing at Artist Equity for years now, are apparently just being a big pain in the ass to every studio in Hollywood. Apparently when that one studio exec was saying, what do we do when somebody else wants this deal? Apparently that somebody else is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who now want this deal on everything. But you know what? Go get them, guys. I'm cheering for you.
Nice.
I feel like they'll have an easier time of getting it, though. I wonder why.
Again, could it be
because of all that goodwill hunting, goodwill?
Well, and like the fact that, I mean, the thematic resonance of like Black ownership of art, like in this movie about like music and spiritualism and like and imperialism, and like it's just it's some real like I can't.
It's too easy.
Right, I can't see that I'm holding a lit grenade, and like I'm just gonna sit here and yell about like, can't believe this guy wants to own the movie. I don't realize I'm a vampire. Like I'm being a vampire. I'm at the door. Can we just do a little bit of fun stuff before we close out? I was fondly reminiscing the other day about Cornbread trying to play it all cool at the door. He's like, come on, man, invite me inside.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie, genuinely.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
And I love how the movie assumes that we all know the tropes. It doesn't have to explain to us that the vampire. Like, we've all seen Let the Right One In.
That's another thing I love about the movie. There's a lot of like backstory that they don't outwardly tell us, but you can pick out via the little tiny details that they have on the set pieces or the costume design, things like that.
My joke that was no good for Twitter, but probably is good enough for an hour deep into our podcast is huge movie for representation for both Black folks and people who love Vampire Rules.
Yeah,
like the deep lore about vampires.
Did you guys like see how they shot the scenes that had both Smoke and Stack in them?
No.
And like how they did the visual effects.
I saw that article, I think.
It took like apparently 4 takes for each scene. Like it's 4 takes being put together because they need to shoot 1 take of him acting everything as Smoke, and then 1 take of him acting everything as Stack, and then a repeat of those 2 takes where he's wearing a device called a halo that has like 8. He said 8 cameras rigged around it. Michael B. Jordan said 8 cameras rigged around it. Omar Miller, the guy playing Cornbread, said that it's up to 30 cameras.
Jeez.
That is just capturing like all of his facial movements for those scenes as well, just so they could digitally replace it on the stunt double. And I thought that was just really interesting. And then also like that's a practical reason why Stack had such a wide brim hat for like the scenes when they would be like hugging and stuff. It's literally like the birth that they need to give between the heads for that halo device.
I'm sorry, I understand the confusion that's happening here, Bruno. No. That's so I could tell them apart. That's why that was there. That was so
that's why they have red and blue.
That was the red and blue.
Yeah, because they looked like Mario and Luigi to me.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that I in our little first quarter of 2025 where we've had our 4 different doubles movies. I did think this was the best version of it, so I want to go hunt that down now.
Definitely
to see if I can check it out, because I did think this one looked the best. I also will say that I know that this was a film that was shot on Kodak film, which I was especially interested in because Kodak. There's a really cool article you can read. I wanted to pull it up here while we were talking about it. It's from 2019. It's in the New York Times. It's called "The Racial Bias Built into Photography." The subtitle is "Sarah Lewis Explores the Relationship Between Racism and the Camera." And I'll read a short little section from a much larger article that is way more informed on this than I could ever be. But she writes, Concordia University professor Lorna Roth's research has shown that it took complaints and corporate furniture and chocolate manufacturers in the 1960s and 70s for Kodak to fix color photography bias. Earl Edge, Kodak's former manager of research at the head of Color Photo Studios, received compliments during the time for chocolate companies saying that complaints at the time saying the chocolate companies weren't getting the right brown tones for the chocolate in photographs. Furniture companies were also not getting enough variation between the different color of the woods in their advertisements. Concordia University's Professor Roth's research shows that Cage had also received complaints before from parents about the quality of graduation photos. The color contrast made it nearly impossible to capture a diverse group, but it was the chocolate and furniture companies that forced Kodak's hand. Cage admitted it was never black flesh that was addressed as a serious problem at the time. So anyway, there's been a lot of like positive press around them using Kodak film to shoot this black cast. And obviously it was a deliberate decision by Coogler. So just something I thought was cool that we could talk about Sinners, that didn't have to be how a bunch of rich assholes are worried they're not going to be as rich as they could be when they could be produced. Think about it, guys. We could be getting Sinners Origins in 50 years. So what are we going to do without that? Closing question, wrap-up thought for us. Is Sinners a one-time thing? Is this a flash in the pan? Or in a couple years, are we going to be looking back at Sinners and Everything Everywhere All at Once, or something like that, like they were the Iron Man and Dark Knight of 2008? Are we at the start of a new thing here?
My inclination is not in that way. Like, at most, like I alluded to at the beginning, and like the Everything Everywhere All at Once comparisons, I think allude to. At most, it might be like a revolution in terms of not doing franchising more, right, now that people see it can be more profitable. But I don't think it will just be, I don't think it will successfully be cannibalized by the industry to be turned into another franchise, because I just don't think that's why people were interested in it. But I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I think everything is cyclical. We're hopefully getting into a new auteur era where people cut their teeth making superhero movies and are then given the chance to do the things they actually want to do. You could say the same thing for Nolan with Batman, earning him the right to make Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, so on and so forth. Same thing's happening here with Coogler. Hopefully we're getting that, but the franchise stuff is never going to go away. It never has gone away. But like Jackson said, if studios can see that, it's a more profitable path to, put less than 100 million into it, give it a big release, put a known director on it who's worked with an actor multiple times already. So we know they typically make good stuff, whether it's Creed or Black Panther or whatever. People will show up, and you make it a large format thing. So people have to go to the theater to see it. They don't feel like, oh, well, I can wait for Netflix or whatever. I got off my ass and saw it in the theater too. It'll make a difference. So yeah, hopefully we see more of that. I don't know if it'll start a new MCU type trend, but we'll see. Hopefully,
right.
We'll see.
Any thoughts, Bruno?
No, this not really. Like the other guys pretty much covered it. Can I do a quick roundtable thing that I meant to do for like movie reviews, and I will just do it right now for Sinners?
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, I just want to like go around the table and like, I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts on like the genuine award projections for Sinners.
I texted Deepak sort of joking about that right after the movie, that I was like, this is just what Ryan Coogler does, is he always comes out in like the first quarter of a year with a movie that should get a lot of Oscar play, and then he's got to wait through the rest of the year to like find out whether or not we've remembered his movies. Right. Ruth Carter is an absolute icon who I will love forever, and her costumes are always incredible, and I think her costume work
has already won 2 Oscars for Ryan Coogler movies.
Yep. And I think her costume work in this is immaculate. I would love to see it nominated. Ryan Coogler, this was the first time I noticed this, but Ryan Coogler has only worked with female cinematographers, which for anyone who doesn't know is it's probably the most male-dominated part of Hollywood right now, or at least is high up there. And I thought that the woman that shot this movie did an incredible job. I wouldn't mind, but I don't know that I'm gonna be like screaming like, why didn't Sinners get the Everything Everywhere treatment come February? I don't know
Right.
that I'm on that level with it. I am like, there was some good stuff in it for sure. Yeah.
I could see it being in the mix for sound. Could see it being in the mix for original score. Probably the front runner at this point. Makeup
Original
seems
song
like an
as well?
obvious candidate. What is the original song? Is it the
I-
one that he sings in the barn? The
Yeah.
big number? Yeah, so sure, I could see it being in there. I don't know that any of the performances get nominated, not that they don't deserve to. I just don't know if it's that kind of movie. Same thing goes for screenplay. I would like to see Coogler, sneak his way, for lack of a better term, into director. But again, I think what Riley pointed out, the fact that it came out so early, and we're going to have all the Oscar stuff coming up later in the year, and this is kind of a stacked year that's going to be coming up down the pipe.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But I think in the technicals, whether it's cinematography for not just the IMAX work, but the aspect ratio work, because the non-IMAX stuff is in 276. The Academy loves that. They gave Hateful Eight a cinematography nomination for the same aspect ratio. But yeah, I think sound, score, song, makeup, like Riley said, costumes, and maybe even production design are probably its best
If you
bets.
want to get really, if you want like a sexy answer, Bruno, like something that's going to like excite people to think about, the Academy did not nominate Delroy Lindo for The Five Bloods, and they probably should.
That would be a great time to do it here.
This could be a make good on that.
I thought a lot about
reason-
Delroy Lindo for supporting.
He's so funny in this movie.
Yeah.
He's fucking
He's really
hilarious.
good.
When he
I-
tastes the beer for the first time and he's like, I'm in, you sons of bitches. Like,
But at the same time, I thought a lot about Javier Bardem from Doom Part 2 as supporting as well, and that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was more of an ensemble movie. I think for The Five Bloods, there was a category issue with him, from what I recall. I think he wanted to go lead, and they wanted him in supporting, and there was some issue there. But here, he's very obviously a supporting actor.
all right, when we get back, pop culture recommendations. That's it. This has been another episode of Nerd It Here Weekly. Thanks so much for watching. We want to make sure we remind you to head over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/nerditherefirst, where you can subscribe to this show and click the bell so you never miss an episode. Or if you're not so much of a YouTube subscribe person, but you do have an email address, you can go to nihf.com and you can type in your email address and hit subscribe to get every episode of this show, plus all our other shows, sent to your inbox ad-free as they come out. You'll get them piping hot right out the stove. Before we get out of here, we want to hit you with some pop culture recommendations. These are things we've been watching, reading, eating, playing, or listening to that we've really enjoyed lately, and we think you'll be into as well. And this week, I'm going to go first because I want to talk about a thing that I don't think we've really talked about on this show, which is The Pit, the not an ER reboot on HBO Max. For those of you, well, let me first say it's a television hospital drama. It takes place in an emergency room in Pittsburgh, and it is styled in the classic format of something like 24, where every episode of the show is 1 hour of the crew's day, and it takes you through their 15-hour shift at the hospital. So every episode sort of just picks up right where the previous episode left off, and you're following Noah Wyle, who is very much not playing his character from ER. If anyone from the Michael Crichton estate is listening, for those of you who don't know, there was some scuffle with the Crichton estate when they wanted to bring back.
It's still ongoing.
I think there is still ongoing stuff about whether or not you're allowed to put Noah Wyle in a hospital on TV or not. But anyway, it's a good show. I knew I was going to get sucked in once I started watching it. I'm not really a binge mode kind of a guy. I think I went through 4 episodes last night. It's just so good. So
nice.
The Pit on Max. It's all done. You can just go do it. You can just go have your 15-hour shift in a hospital if that's what you're into. Jackson, tell me about your French JRPG.
Yeah, it's a J apostrophe RPG.
JRPG.
It's called Clair Obscure Expedition 33. It feels like everyone is talking about this game, but maybe that's just in my circles. It's real fun. It is incredibly pretty, first of all, and I was kind of almost suspicious of it for being so pretty, because I thought maybe it's just like eye candy and there wouldn't be like... It would just be like turn on all the post-processing effects and there wouldn't be like art direction or game design or stuff like that. But no, it's got all those things. I've beaten it. I beat it in like a week, which is crazy. It's not that long, which is a problem I have with some RPGs, that I really burn out when I reach like hour 40. So this one I finished in 25 hours, which is not that bad for a game like this. And yeah, I think the story is really unique and fascinating and really had me hooked. I didn't know anything about it going in, which I think was really is not a common thing from what I've heard. So if you are in that position, I'd recommend you try playing it out, or try it out. You can get it on Game Pass if you have that already, or you can get Game Pass to try it out for only $20, but it's only $50 to buy the whole thing, which is, I hate that I'm saying only $50, but apparently that's life now.
Charlie Cox, Andy Serkis.
Yeah, starring Charlie Cox, and Andy Serkis is another.
What?
Yeah,
Yep.
and the girl who plays Shadowheart is
Jennifer
the main
English.
girl. Yeah, but that's how people are gonna know her from the video game space.
Sure.
Yes, no, a very big stacked cast in the English cast, and the French dub is also pretty good.
Cool.
Bruno, talk to me about what Mike Flanagan's getting up to on the socials.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I'm just a big Mike Flanagan fan, and I'm very excited for Life of Chuck coming out this year. It's going to be dropping first weekend of June.
We call him Mike Stanigan.
But lately, I've been on his Letterboxd a lot, and I've been trying to get more active on Letterboxd myself, and he happens to be like extremely active on Letterboxd. He has a huge variety of lists to go through that he's made himself. One of my personal favorites that I go to a lot is he has Mike Flanagan's favorite first date movies, which is When Harry Met Sally ranked first, and then everything else is horror flicks. But what I really wanted to talk about is that in preparation of Life of Chuck coming out this year, he put out a companion list of movies to watch ahead of Life of Chuck, just to get, I guess, in some cases, it could be an idea of the vibe, an idea of the story, or even, I guess, in one case that I watched earlier this week, some technical aspects that he might be like being inspired to use. This week, I got through, out of that list, CoverGirl from 1944, 1961's West Side Story, and then, which your mileage may vary on that version of the movie for various reasons. And then lastly, the one that I actually want to talk about is Hearts in Atlantis, which is based off of Stephen King short story. The reviews on this generally weren't that good, but with those expectations set low, I was actually surprised by how much fun I had watching this. It was a very heartfelt and sentimental story that focused on two leads from Anthony Hopkins and an 11-year-old Anton Yelchin. May he rest in peace. And like a beautiful performance from both actors, as well as the supporting cast. Some really great choices in cinematography in there. I can see a lot of things that Mike Flanagan could be pulling from that for Life of Chuck. But I could also see this being on his list solely for being a Stephen King novel of the same sort of vibe that Life of Chuck is going to be. So yeah, very excited for Life of Chuck, but also just powering through this list as I go.
Getting your homework done. I love it. Deepak.
Last week was sick, so I was going through Netflix and I found One of Them Days, which is a recent movie with Keke Palmer, who we all love from Nope, and SZA. Really fun little movie. It's kind of like Friday mixed with those sort of early Guy Ritchie movies about just friends trying to try to figure out how to get money to pay someone off real quick before they get killed. Belly Belly, I think I mentioned in my Letterboxd review. If anyone's seen that, I know Riley has. A lot of that vibe in there. Really fun, really short, really sweet, really simple. Not a demanding watch, but a very funny, entertaining one. So One of Them Days, I would highly recommend.
It's been on my list. I think this probably just put it over the edge.
Yeah.
This has been Nerd It Here Weekly. Thank you so much for listening. We want to remember to remind you to check us out on our YouTube channel and on our website, nihf.com. We'd like to thank Purple Planet for our music. We'd like to thank Wiki Rascals for our logo and our artwork. This episode was edited by Bruno Meneses and executive produced by me, Riley Trahan. You can keep up with all of our work at nihf.com. And as always, don't forget to tune in next week to hear